They said it was about holy love. They said their hands were the only thing that touched prior to marriage. They said they waited that a kiss didn't even pass between them until they exchanged vows beneath the wedding arch. But when you stop listening to the tales and begin to trace the receipts, the truth revealed is not so sacred. It's a story attired in $30,000 of lingerie debt, secret hotel trysts, sultry Lexus photo-oots, and a blizzard of gaslighting, all camouflaged in the veneer of modesty. Come on into the true story, the one deliberately buried under tear-filled couch confessions and selectively edited scenes. This is your deep dive into the truth behind Robin Brown's painstakingly created chastity act, a performance that was more about power than faith. From the first episode, Robin and Cody Brown sold audiences on a story of restraint and righteousness. They talked with reverence of spiritual boundaries and respect for plural marriage. Cody glowed as he professed they didn't even kiss until their wedding day, and Robin reiterated the same, saying she didn't feel right sharing lips with a married man. In theory, it seemed noble, but behind the scenes, it was all an act, while the cameras filmed a tale of religious fervor. Reality drew a very different picture. Throughout their year-long romance, Cody was allegedly making 5-hour commutes every weekend to see Robin, not overnight trips, not in public. These were overnight excursions, commonly in hotels, commonly alone, and always without the other wives or children, that involved leaving 13 children and 3 wives week after week to spend unchaperoned time with the woman he said he hardly touched, pure, respectful, or simply practiced. And then there's the money. Their so-called humble courtship cost a whopping amount underneath early season theatrics. Cody at one time confessed the family went almost $30,000 into debt. Wooing Robin, and much of that cash went to Victoria's Secret. Yes, you heard that right. Preaching modesty while running up credit card bills on lingerie. Modesty and sex spending binges. Those two don't necessarily get put together in the same sentence. But wait, there's more. Viewers who watched closely will recall the infamous picture. Robin sprawled over Cody's Lexus, wearing stilettos, posing seductively. That picture never found its way into the official engagement book. Of course, it didn't fit the fairy tale, but it was there. It was real, and it dispelled the fantasy in that one shot. The performance broke wide open because the reality is, this wasn't about faith. It was about controlling perception. While the family underwent emotional and financial crisis, Cody was emotionally absent, drawn deeper into a relationship that was anything but pure. He pulled away from his other wives, established emotional distance, and set the stage for eventual estrangement. Nevertheless, the myth was perpetuated: no kissing, no intimacy, only spiritual union. But that fantasy unraveled when Christine, while in labor, truly discovered that Cody and Robin had indeed kissed. Christine said it herself. She accepted Cody's word when he promised no kissing. Before marriage, for her, that boundary was important. So when she discovered that Robin had crossed it prior to the wedding, it was a profound betrayal during the most vulnerable moment in her life. Christine knew the rules had been redefined for Robin. Her heartache revealed the truth that the show attempted so vigorously to conceal. Which is it, were they actually just praying and holding hands? Or were they redefining rules for physical affection to suit themselves, but requiring everyone else to play by the old playbook? That's the actual problem. All the complaint about spirituality and morality rings so empty when their behavior screams contradiction. Robin's modesty gesture wasn't motivated by self-control. It was calculated. It was created to gain approval, sympathy, and legitimacy, and emotional currency that she spent at a deficit and proof. It's been sitting in the footage all along, waiting for someone to put 2 and 2 together. If you believe that $30,000 Victoria's Secret charge was an aberration, think again. The trend was set years before Robin ever became a screen presence as the soft-spoken fourth wife, long before TLC brought cameras. Robin already was a single mother with a checkered past, including having become pregnant out of wedlock with her sister's former boyfriend. That's not a detail to shame, it's what happened, but it tells a very different tale than the purity campaign she organized down the line. The change was abrupt from a nonconformist upbringing to the paragon of spiritual restraint. And Cody, he was sold hook, line, and halo. He lavished her with praise on her virtue, on her spiritual stature, on her seeming morality. But once more, reality footage doesn't prevaricate the Victoria's Secret shopping excursions. The sultry Lexus photos shoot the stilettos, the revealing clothes, the emotionally charged unsupervised weekend getaways. It's all recorded, and it doesn't reconcile. How do you balance a wholesome image with satin lingerie and risque pictures? How do you assert chastity by constantly traveling with a man who is still married to 3 other women? The contradiction is glaring, not only in the acts, but in the intent. Robin didn't merely morph into the righteous wife persona. She weaponized it. She employed modesty as a shield, as a means to sanction her existence and increase her standing within the household. Never about love, about optics, strategy, and control. And the more you dig, the more it becomes apparent the tale she spun was not the one she lived, and it wasn't only the viewers who knew something was amiss. Christine picked up on it. Janelle picked up on it. Even Mary, the most devoted of the original 3, couldn't help but notice the change. Robin's acting may have deceived occasional viewers, but the individuals who resided in that house, they witnessed the reality long before any of us did. The cracks in the illusion were evident all along. You simply had to look beyond the script that you could see it in their eyes. That quiet, seething pain they worked so hard to hide. You could hear it in their strained voices, the forced cordiality, the strained smiles as they watched the man they once emotionally trusted pack out. It wasn't merely a shift, it was a slow-motion implosion of what they had created, and it began with Christine, who carried the deepest injury of all. She wasn't just betrayed, she was devastated in perhaps the saddest moment ever televised. Christine announced she was actually in labor with Truly. When she discovered that Cody had kissed Robin, let that set in as she was giving birth to a child. Cody was violating the very command he said he held so dearly to, until we were more. Then the altar, Christine cried. We didn't even kiss because I didn't feel comfortable kissing a married man. And when I discovered that he had already kissed Robin, it was just crushing to me. Her hurt wasn't about the kiss, about the hypocrisy. She had been living by the rules and watching Cody and Robin reauthoring them behind closed doors. Christine wasn't naive. She understood that plural marriage included complicated feelings, but what shattered her wasn't love. It was betrayal. She had been living according to a spiritual code that her husband and Robin were deliberately flouting. That's not only painful, it's destabilizing. And then there's Mary. The hilarity of her participation, impossible to overlook. She was the one who first accepted Robin into the fold, even facilitated the courtship. But eventually, even Mary had to face reality that she had been used as a public face of approval, while Robin quietly avoided the emotional labor. All plural wives are expected to bear the epiphany, struck hard. This wasn't integration, it was infiltration. And then there's Janelle, the most subdued of the wives. She rarely said anything, but her silence, it was deafening. You could sense the tension seething beneath the surface, the silent grievances that accumulated brick by brick with each unremarked insult, each shattered vow, each manufactured time. Robin didn't simply join the family, she overpowered it. She warped the framework to suit herself, and everyone else was instructed to keep sweet and grin for the cameras, and throughout it all, the only phrase he held on to like a shield was, I didn't feel safe. That and its similarly exhausting twin, they don't respect me. These became his go-to armor, endlessly deployed in order to deflect blame. But if you listen carefully, they're not words of vulnerability. They are excuses, therapy terms turned into weapons of suppression to shut down criticism. This isn't a man struggling with emotional hurts. This is a guy who's running away from them. Cody portrays himself as the victim father, the husband who sacrificed everything. But what did we see? A guy happily buying himself a flashy two-seater sports car while forsaking his duties to 18 kids. A guy who complained about having to stay in with his own children one night, joking that he'd rather pay somebody else $20 to do it. That ain't fatherhood, that's entitlement, and his so-called sadness about the broken relationships with his older kids, it only materializes when they confront him. He never goes after the actual hurt he inflicted, the abandonment, the silence, the not being there. And then, of course, there is the footage because reality television has a tendency to catch people at their most authentic, despite the best efforts to edit around it. Well, it doesn't lie. Robin took years saying she worked just as hard, that she brought as much to the table, but the proof it's devastating the family camping trip. Anyone Christine and Janelle were running around getting kids to stay in line, carrying gear, preparing meals, and Robin sitting inside the RV getting her makeup done, saying that's not what happened later, and giggling about it doesn't fly when it literally did happen and millions of people witnessed it. Or the moment the luggage rack where Robin somehow got stuck with the only car equipped with storage, Cody attempted to spin it naturally, but we knew it was another sign, another signal that the rules didn't apply when Robin was involved at it. A certain point, this became less about forgetting. It was outright gaslighting, a concerted effort to rewrite history in the moment. Although the receipts had already aired, and that's what viewers are really sick of. It's not so much the favoritism, it's the denial of it, the rewriting, the inability to admit it. Editing has long shielded Robin with turning points, inexplicably cut out contradictions, discreetly pushed underground. But by this point, the clean version she and Cody are attempting to peddle is no longer credible. The reality has already been broadcast, and the viewers we were witnessing it all along. And meanwhile, Robin and Cody go on perpetuating their own fairy tale of martyrdom and innocence. Christine did something neither of them anticipated. She got over it. She healed, she retired, and that healing arrived in the guise of David Woolley, a man whose presence is so stark, so radiant in contrast to all that Cody never was. David isn't a love interest. He's a partner, one who doesn't judge, who sits in Christine's pain with her, rather than moving to defend himself when Christine speaks of her trauma. David doesn't deflect, reframe, or shut down emotionally. He remains present, grounded, supportive, and that's not common, particularly for a guy embarking on a relationship with a person emerging from a spiritual and emotional minefield. What makes David so impressive is that he knows polygamy not as an outsider looking in, but as a person who's witnessed its cost. Firsthand, it was later discovered that two of David's sisters exited polygamist colonies themselves. So, when he glances at Christine, he doesn't just see her beauty or her strength. He sees also her scars, and he respects them. He doesn't hurry her healing. He allows room for it, room for her voice, her freedom, and that contrast. It's dizzying. Christine has turned radiant, confident light. Robin, by contrast, is still defensive, still holding on to the victim script, still editing, still throwing a fit every time reality shows up at the door. But Christine's peace isn't about revenge. It's grounded in freedom, in truth, in a type of love that doesn't require control to exist. Ultimately, what Cody and Robin peddled us wasn't a tale of spiritual victory. It was an act, a well-crafted deception, wrapped in moral righteousness and slathered with just enough selective trimming to make it credible until it wasn't. The fissurers became too large, the inconsistencies accumulated, and all the while cameras rolled, recording the very moments they now try to Deny ever occurred, Sister Wives might have been a game-changing image of love in its most multifaceted incarnation. But what it turned out to be was a study in ego and manipulation, and the price was honesty. Real, open, unfiltered honesty. It got lost in the optics. But that truth, the one hidden under the PR spin and therapy malarkey, was always present. We witnessed it, we sensed it, and no amount of editing can make it disappear. Now, leave your thoughts in the comments. What was the moment that made you go, "Wait, what?" And don't forget to subscribe, because we're not yet finished telling the truth, not by a long shot.